I never put this here, so who's
I
watching
didn't
me
notice
right
the
now?
camera at first, and that's exactly what made it worse, because things like that don't just appear overnight
One
without a
camera
reason, and when you finally
is
see
not a
them, it means
mistake.
they've been there long
is
enough to
planned.
watch more than they should.
Keep
It
watching
started
because
like a
now I'm
normal
watching
day.
back.
No messages, no warnings, no HOA emails, nothing unusual, just silence.
How every
And I
other
remember thinking
camera
how
faces
calm everything
outside,
felt
but
until something
mine faces
small caught my eye.
inside.
Near the side of my house, a tiny reflection under the roofline, something that didn't belong there. So I stopped, went back, and looked again, properly this time. And that's when I saw it, clearly. A small black dome fixed perfectly into place, facing directly toward my property. Not the street, not the road, not even the shared area. It was aimed straight at my house. And in that moment, something didn't feel right, because I never installed that. And I don't forget things like that, especially not something that records. I didn't react immediately. I didn't call anyone. I just stood there looking at it, trying to understand the angle, the placement, the intention. Because cameras are not random. Someone chooses where they go, and this one was placed to see everything. My driveway, my front door, even part of my windows. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't security. This was surveillance. I stepped closer, acting normal, but paying attention to every detail. The lens, the direction, the height. And then I noticed something else. It wasn't even slightly off. It was perfectly positioned, like someone tested it, adjusted it, made sure it covered exactly what they wanted. And that's when the situation changed in my head completely. I walked back inside slowly, but now my mind was already moving, because if there was one, there had to be more, and I wasn't going to guess. I was going to check. So I did every corner, every edge, every spot where something small could be hidden. And it didn't take long before I found another one near the side fence. Different angle, same intention, watching the same space from a different direction. And now it was clear this wasn't a mistake. This wasn't random. This was planned. I pulled out my phone and started recording everything, not rushing, just steady, capturing angles, positions, details, because now this wasn't about confusion anymore. This was about proof. Later that evening, I walked through the neighborhood calm, normal, like nothing was wrong, but I was watching everything. And then I saw it cameras on other houses too, but different placement, different direction. Those were facing the street like actual security, like they were supposed to. And that's when everything clicked. Only line was pointed inward. Only mine was watching private space. And there's only one group that has access like that without asking. The HOA. But I still didn't say anything because at that point asking questions would only warn them, and I needed them comfortable. I needed them to think I hadn't noticed. The next morning I went back outside and looked at it again, same position, same angle, like nothing had changed. And that's when I noticed something new, a thin wire running behind the edge, not wireless, not temporary, connected. That changed everything, because that meant it wasn't just recording. It was sending footage somewhere, live. Someone was watching, not later, not stored, right now. And that's when the feeling changed completely, because this wasn't just invasion, this was control. Someone somewhere thought they had the right to monitor my property without permission, without notice, without any legal reason. I stepped back, slowly, still looking at that camera, and for the first time I wasn't confused anymore. I was sure they thought I wouldn't notice. They thought they could hide it. They thought they could watch without being seen. But they made one mistake. They put it on my house. And now that I had seen it, I wasn't going to remove it, not yet, because sometimes the best way to expose something hidden is to let it keep running. And whatever they were doing with those cameras, I was about to find out. I didn't touch the cameras, and that was the hardest part, because every instinct told me to take them down immediately. But I knew the moment I did that, whoever was behind this would know I had noticed, and I wasn't ready for that yet. I needed more. I needed to see how far this actually went. So instead of reacting, I changed how I moved, not obvious, not dramatic, just small things. I stayed out a little longer. I walked into areas they could clearly see. I made sure if someone was watching, They would think everything was normal. But at the same time, I was watching back, paying attention to patterns, timing angles. And it didn't take long before something started to feel off again. The cameras weren't just there, they were active. I noticed it late at night when I stepped outside. The small reflection on the lens shifted slightly. Not a big movement, but enough to tell me something had adjusted, and cameras don't move on their own. Not like that, not without someone controlling them. That's when the situation got worse, because now I knew someone wasn't just recording, they were monitoring. In real time, I didn't react. I didn't even look directly at it. Again, I just walked back inside calmly, like nothing happened, but my mind was already connecting everything. Because if someone was actively watching, then there had to be a system behind it, a feed, a control point, a place where all of this was being seen. The next morning, I decided to test it, not directly, just enough to confirm what I already suspected. I walked outside, stood right in front of the camera, and stayed there longer than normal, doing nothing, just standing still. And within seconds, I saw it again, a slight adjustment, barely noticeable, but enough. Someone was there, watching, reacting. That was all I needed. Later that day, I started checking the surroundings more carefully, not just my property, but where those wires were leading. And that's when I noticed something important. The cable didn't just disappear into the wall, it ran along the edge, carefully hidden, but still visible if you followed it closely. So I followed it slowly, casually, like I was just walking around, but in reality I was tracking it step by step, and it led further than I expected, past my side wall, along the shared boundary, and then toward something that made everything stop for a second. The HOA utility box, locked, placed right between properties. Something no one questions, something everyone ignores. And suddenly everything made sense. That wasn't random placement, that was access. I stood there for a moment, not touching it, not reacting, just looking. Because now I knew this wasn't just someone putting cameras up. This was organized, this was controlled from a central point. And whoever had access to that box had access to everything. I went back inside and reviewed all the footage I had taken, zoomed in on the cameras, the wires, the angles, and then I saw something I missed before, a small marking near the base of one camera. Not a brand, not a serial number. Something simpler, an HOA tag, small, faded. But there. And that was it. That was the confirmation. This wasn't a third party, this wasn't random surveillance. This was coming from inside the system. From the same people who sent notices, who claimed to manage the neighborhood, who acted like everything they did was for safety. But this wasn't safety, this was control. I sat there for a while thinking through everything, because now the situation had changed completely. This wasn't about finding out if they were involved anymore. It was about proving it, and not just proving it, exposing it in a way they couldn't deny. I didn't call them. I didn't ask questions because questions give them time to prepare, and I didn't want them prepared. I wanted them caught exactly as they were. So instead of stopping anything, I let it continue. I gave them more time, more footage, more mistakes, because the longer they kept watching, the more they exposed themselves. And now that I knew where it was coming from, the next step wasn't going to be guessing. It was going to be ending it.